Good afternoon. Today's investigation brings us to the sleepy little bedroom community, beautiful rural community of Ellendale, Minnesota in Steele County. We are 35 miles just north of the Iowa border and about 80 miles south of Minneapolis, St. Paul. What brings us here, you might ask? A town of less than 700 people? Well, what brings us here is over 135 pages of new codified laws, ordinances, if you will, that the City Council enacted in 2022. Unfortunately, only one resident went to those meetings and has a clue, but we're about to inform you of what's going on and what's being selectively enforced by the City Council among certain property owners and not for others. You may have heard the theme recently, rules for thee, but not for me. Come on, let's take you to Ellendale, Minnesota. Well, I'll tell you part of what it is. It's where they enact local ordinances in addition to the thousands of statutes that we have in Minnesota. They enact local little ordinances. But at this city hall, what they did in 2022, they named them all as state statutes. If you look in the codification manual, which we'll do shortly, and we'll discuss at tonight's city hall meeting, they literally have the state statute sign, the symbol in front of each one of their numbers. Why is that a problem? Well, when you look up state statute 101.2 according to Ellendale, it's not going to match what the real state statute 101.2 is. So when Ellendale sends a violation notice to a property owner and quotes their ordinances with the state statute symbol in front of them, and that person goes to look up the state statute, it's not going to fly at all. Good?
We need to do this one again.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
All right, now before we get into this video a whole lot today, here's something we really want to make clear to you. We agree that you need things to keep your city safe. You need things on the books to keep really rogue people from going too rogue. You want a nice environment for your family and your children in a beautiful community like Ellendale, and you want to preserve that. We don't have a problem with that at all. What we have a problem with is their process, where they can assign administrative fines with no hearing, with no right to due process. And then they can move on from there and take administrative steps without you really even knowing what's going on. But the bigger problem, they don't follow their own codes. Here, let's just show you one. How about this one right here? We're here for the City Council meeting tonight on May 9th. And what does this ordinance say? 30.01. It says that this City Council has City Council meetings the second and fourth Thursday of every single month. But you know what? We were here last month. They don't. They only have one City Council meeting per month, and they have not updated the codified manual. They've not made a resolution or a variance to their very own ordinance. So we came 2 weeks ago expecting a City Council meeting, only to find that if you go to their website, for some reason, they only have one per month. So that's just part of it. Again, we want to point out to you, any home, any yard, any property in this video today is not an assault or attack on that owner. It's strictly showing you the rules for thee, or rules for me, not for thee, punishment for me, and not for you. Let's go.
Yep.
See this girl and her dad playing baseball out here? Getting a little practice in. That's what towns like Ellendale are all about. But do you see how she has to crawl a pile of brush to get to the backstop to retrieve the rest of the balls? That pile of brush sitting right there? Yeah, you guessed it. That's against the city ordinance, and that's at a city park. Here we are in the backside of 808 Rose Drive. Isn't that a beautiful tower back here? What is that, 40, 45 feet high? And then you've got another, what, 10, 12, 15 feet of antennae? Well, guess who lives at 808 Rose Drive? A city council member named John Esplin. The same city council member that is starting action in hearings against people tonight for their lawn being too long. Not just any lawn, by the way, but for a vacant residential lot where that lawn, that grass, is harvested as hay and protected by the United States, the USDA, protected in that they're paying taxes on the property as harvestable land for that hay, and have been for years. Now, again, like I said, I have no problem with an amateur radio operator, or what we call a ham radio operator, and his tower and antenna. In fact, I applaud them. They're the people that really do help during natural disasters and huge emergencies when other communication is overloaded or even fails at times. So I support that. What I don't support, and what Ellendale doesn't support, is a city council member going after someone for grass, weeds 6 inches tall against the ordinance, when in fact they have an ordinance against this. It's way too high, and if it falls, it does crash onto other people's property, which is also against the ordinance. That's why they wrote the ordinance that way. But when we asked John about it, do you know what he said? Well, he said he has a federal license. Of course he does, like every amateur radio operator. A federal license doesn't give him anything that supersedes above and beyond Ellendale's ordinance. In fact, it's the opposite. Any municipality has the right to write an ordinance stricter than the federal law, but not less than. They can't reduce the federal statutes. When we called that to his attention, do you know what his response was then? Well, it's my domicile, and I'm grandfathered in. Unfortunately, when Ellendale wrote their codified manual that he voted on, they repealed every other ordinance and code that they'd ever had and started fresh. And there is no being grandfathered in. Hey John, I'll see you at the council meeting tonight. Again, let us remind you, we're not picking on any single property owner or the collection of property owners. We're not trying to call people out by name or even their address, but here we are in 8th and Commercial. We've got all these semi-trailers in town, in the city limits, okay? But you notice what's not underneath them? The required minimum 4 inches of crushed gravel or concrete or pavement. You see, a vehicle, whether it's an RV, a fish house, a trailer of any type, has to be on improved surface. The minimum if you're doing crushed rock is 4 inches. Again, where is the city getting their ordinances and only enforcing them on certain people or one person as we sit today? If you don't believe me, here's what I'd like you to do, because I'm all about giving you the facts. Look up the codification manual and look up code 71.05 subdivision D2. And he's not the only one, or she, or whoever owns this property. Come on, Ellendale, we're not done. We're not trying to embarrass you. We're trying to make you aware of what your city council has done with these codified ordinances and the fact that they're really hand selecting who they do and don't enforce them against. So it might look like I'm on a rural gravel road. I'm not. I'm actually on Commercial Street here in Ellendale. And this would be another semi-trailer. That's called a vehicle or a trailer. Either way, by ordinance, you know the rule by now, right? Now, I can guarantee you that's not improved pavement under there. There's no gravel, no crushed rock, no concrete, no pavement. And this, folks, is way more than 6 inches. In fact, this whole field, if my cameraman can pan out, this whole field is in violation of the weed ordinance. It should be pretty clear. It's on the back side of the school in a very, very populated road, even though it's gravel. But I asked you to come along with me and walk through Ellendale, so let's take a step over here. Again, not picking on the individual, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 different towers and then antennae on top of them. Now, if somebody wanted to put up a new one of these today, they actually have to get a CAD engineer drawing, and they have to show the wind rating and the weight load rating and several other things before it would even be considered by city council. So someone like this gentleman, who's visually impaired and a ham radio operator, would probably spend thousands of dollars to do all that. Let's talk about him a minute, because he's a longtime resident here of Ellendale, quite well respected. But you know what? He didn't know anything about the new codification manual. Do you want to know why? Because the city's in violation of the American with Disabilities Act. There's no alternative format for him to have been told that there was even a meeting in 2022 about a new codified manual, nor is there a way for him to view them or know them until we knocked on his door and told him. So here we are in the 100 block of 6th in Ellendale, Minnesota. And like I said before, we're not picking on any particular property owner in this community whatsoever. Everybody's got struggles. Finances are tough. The economy's down. We just came off of COVID, and a lot of things have happened in the last 2 or 3 years. And we do believe that your neighbors should keep their property reasonably safe and reasonably clean. But Ellendale has an ordinance right over my shoulder here of this garage that's completely falling apart. Obviously that garage has been falling apart a lot longer than 2022. And as I said, this is May 9th of 2024. But do you see him doing anything about that property? Walk with me, we're not done. We don't even have to go very far. All we got to do is look over here where there's a porch falling down. There's siding that's not on it. And again, what happens when a city makes ordinances and makes codes that they want to enforce for one person and not for others? Our biggest complaint, how can a sitting city council member adopt ordinances about property that he personally violates? Ellendale deserves better. Ellendale demands better. You know, folks, when you're doing an investigation, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the people that are viewing this, you owe it to your clients to get the full story. Here we are on 4th and 4th, and as you can see, not only another motorhome that's not on an improved pavement, it's not on 4 inches of crushed rock, neither is the car behind it. These are the things that the city is saying you can't do here, right? $100 administrative fine for each and everything they find. And then there's more penalties if it goes further on down the road, or you don't comply within 7 days, depending on who you are. Well, here we are again in Ellendale, folks. This is right off of Highway 30, right out by the water tower. And most of the folks in Ellendale know this property because this was supposed to be an apartment complex or a fourplex or eightplex of some sort. Unfortunately, the owner and the city and whatever, it just didn't all gel. It didn't all come together. But as you can see, they've put in a hydrant here. They've put in some of the sewer and the water, and took out some buildings and put a lot of construction equipment here during the time that they were starting to build. But then the project got abandoned. And as you can see, still sits abandoned with rubble and construction equipment and huge piles of wood in the way back 40 there. And again, grass that's definitely over 6 inches long and definitely can't get mowed because there's just too much stuff in the way. It's not harvested, it's not considered hay. But again, we're in town. These are residential lots, and yet completely ignored.